Alrighty. So when we're answering the questions about highest and lowest melting point, this last question is asking us to what would be fourth in the rankings. Essentially, I have to take this whole list of Na2O, NaI, NaF, etc., decide what type of crystal they are and or what type of intermolecular force, IMF, they have. That will help me then rank them and answer these questions. So I'm not going to try to answer highest, lowest right off the bat. I'm just going to rank them all. Na2O. Na is a metal, O is a nonmetal based on their positions on the periodic table. A metal and a nonmetal automatically is ionic. NaI. Na is a metal, I is a nonmetal, automatically ionic. Remember, the staircase on your periodic table separates the metals to the left of the staircase from the nonmetals to the right. The only exception to that is hydrogen, which is on the left, is actually a nonmetal. Then NaF. We know by now Na is a metal, F is a nonmetal, so boom, another ionic. When I just have C by itself, that's one of our two examples of network covalent. The other one would be SiO2. Did not mean to change my color. Hold on a sec. Great. H2O. H is a nonmetal, O is a nonmetal. Anytime we have a metal and, only nonmetals, we have something molecular. It could be polar with hydrogen bonds, polar or non-polar. Technically, you have to draw it out to know. You might already know that water is molecular polar with hydrogen bonds. If you know that, fine, we've used that example a bunch. But how I would tell is drawing out its Lewis structure. I would see that there's an O bonded to an H. Therefore, this is molecular polar with hydrogen bonds. If that H were connected to an F, O, or N, those are the ways we get a hydrogen bond. Then we have HCl. H and Cl, both nonmetals. To know if I can tell it doesn't have hydrogen bonds because there's no FO or N for the H to be connected to. Polar or not polar, well, again, you might be able to tell without drawing it out, but when you do draw it out, there's no central atom. So I can't use my normal rules about the things connected to the central atom. You're just asking yourself, are the two sides of this, the H and Cl, the same as each other, non-polar, or different from each other, polar? So H and Cl, different elements, therefore this is molecular polar. And would have dipole as its IMF, whereas hydrogen bonds would be the IMF of the water. And finally, though I ran out of space, so I'll go to the top, we have H2. Similarly, if we draw out its Lewis structure, no central atom, but since H is only a nonmetal, I'm looking at it, the two sides are exactly the same. They're both hydrogen, so this must be molecular nonpolar. Now, we're supposed to, for question C, rank from highest to lowest. So I'm going to do that first. Highest melting point is the one that is the strongest IMF. Network covalent is the strongest, so that would be ranked first. That would also be my answer to A. Network covalent, strongest IMF, therefore the highest melting point. After network covalent, the next strongest IMF would be ionics. Now we have 3 ionics here. So how do you check between the ionics? We have to first look at their charges. Sodium's a +1, oxygen's a -2. Sodium's a +1, iodine's a -1. Sodium's a +1, fluorine's a -1. The bigger the charges, ignoring positive and negative, but the bigger the charges, the stronger the attraction or the bond, and therefore the higher the melting point. So that at least helps me know that Na2O is second because it has that 2 in there, whereas NaI and NaF are just a pair of 1s. How do I tell the NaI and NaF apart from each other? Since charge didn't help me, I look at radius. The sodiums are the same as each other, so I don't care about them. I know that fluorine is smaller in its radius than iodine since it's higher up on the periodic table. And since it's smaller, that attraction doesn't have to travel as far of a distance. Therefore, it's stronger. That would be number 3. That would be number 4. After ionics, hydrogen bonds are the next strongest, number 5. Dipole-dipole are the next strongest after that, and nonpolars are the next strongest after that. So my lowest would be H2, because that is the weakest one in this list. And when ranked from highest to lowest, what would be 4th? NaI.